So we're going to get started. Welcome everybody to the ARPA Day Committee meeting for Tuesday, November 7th, 2022. The rules of the meeting. Meeting of the ARPA Day Transformational Committee are public meetings as defined by the Connecticut Freedom of Information Act and should follow these guidelines. As the public meeting is held virtually, it will be recorded and made available to view on the DDS website. Committee members must make a good faith effort to state their name and title, if applicable, each time they speak during the meeting. If a committee member would like to speak, please raise your hand and one of the co-chairs will acknowledge you. There is no public comment portion to this meeting. Members of the public are able to join, watch, and listen only. Next, we have the approval of the 10/25/2022 minutes. Anybody have any questions in regards to the minutes? Seeing none, do I have a motion to accept the 10/25 minutes?
So moved.
That's Beth. A second?
Yeah, Jennifer Keatley.
Let's Sue. Is the second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Any nays? All right, thank you, everybody. Next, I'm very happy. Lisa Jones from Ben Haven is joining us today. She's going to give a presentation on customized employment. Thank you, Lisa, and the stage is yours.
Okay. As you said, Lisa Jones from Ben Haven, Career and Transition Services. I'm just going to try to share. Where do I actually, I'm not seeing it. To share a doc. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay.
There you go.
There we go. I can't see you guys anymore, but I can see this.
Yes, and we see it, so it's good.
Okay, you can see it. Perfect, perfect. So, Trevor, I see you're on here, so please jump in at any point if you would like to. There's just so much information on customized employment, and so I really try to pull in an overview and some key pieces. So if anyone has questions or needed elaboration, please feel free to ask me. So starting, just the overview piece. Customized employment is a process through which the relationship between employer and employee is negotiated and personalized in a way that meets the needs of both. That's a key piece when looking for employment for individuals using the customized employment approach, is that there is a negotiation that in the end, that both the job seeker, the employee, and the employer both will benefit. It's a win-win for both individuals. It matches a job seeker's strengths, conditions under which they will be successful in their interests, the jobs of an employer. I'm going to talk about it a little bit further on the next few slides as to how that is different from the approach that most of us go out and get a job. It could bring people from diverse populations, including those with disabilities, into the workplace to contribute their talents to meet critical business needs. And it's the value of customized employment that it works for individuals who are unable, due to the severity of their disability or other life complexities, to meet the competitive demands of an open job. Again, I'll talk a little bit more on that in the next couple of slides. So looking at some of the essential pieces of customized employment, it is an individual process. This is looking for one job for one person. This is not group supportive employment. This isn't a job developer going out in a traditional way looking for various different jobs and coming back and giving a job to somebody who is looking for employment. It is customizing a job, as you can see below, based on the person's strengths, their interests, the conditions that they might have at a job. And then, like you can see the second piece, there's a lot of negotiation that takes place. Negotiation on individual job tasks, what the person will be doing once they are hired, what their duties will be expected of them, and even negotiating what the pay will be. Customized employment, its model is minimum wage. There's no sub-minimum wage, there's no working under the table, that it's basically someone that anyone going for that job would be paid whatever that rate would be. So there's that whole negotiation piece that goes into this. The work occurs in the community, or if the person owns their own business. So when I had just talked about the negotiation piece, that's being done by a job developer who's been trained in customized employment. When the job developer is going out, the job developer is meeting with whoever the key personnel are at that job. They are explaining what customized employment is. They're talking about what are those unique features that an employment seeker would bring to their place of employment. And then they're going to identify the tasks that fit the individual that will benefit the employer. Because again, that's that give and take between the two, is both benefit. And then they try to negotiate, as I said above, that job description and the employment expectations. Some of the tenets of customized employment are that all individuals can work. Customized employment uses a discovery process where it's an in-depth process where individuals spends countless amount of time with the individual, observing them, seeing them if they have other work, chores, seeing them in the community, anything that they do that's a part of their life. They spend that time and they're really looking at all the things that that person can do. And based upon that, that's where the job developer would take it after that piece. It provides an advantage for candidates who struggle in a competitive job market where many individuals may have wider range of skills, have higher education and work experiences. And I had said earlier, I was going to talk a little bit about this. Traditionally, in the traditional model, when someone's going to look for a job for an individual, there's various ways they might go about it. You could look on the internet. People who are hiring go out to local businesses, seeing if somebody would hire an individual, even maybe going in and asking, or code calling. For our individuals, for some of our individuals, that could, not fare well. You're sometimes going up against people who might have a much heftier resume that might include various different job experiences, higher education. They just might bring more to the table based on that resume that you would be handing in, or that application you would be filling out. With customized employment, the job developer is going out and looking for the best place for that individual to work at, and spending a good amount of time at that place of employment, figuring out what are the needs of that potential employer. And that works better for some of us. And I'll talk a little bit about a few of our individuals that we use this process for, because it's not going up against, sometimes in the past, it could have been going up against hundreds of candidates. And one of the key pieces with discovery is it a positive process. It's really about qualitative research than quantitative. It's really asking the question of who is this person? Really not going back into records and seeing test scores and lots of things that I think a lot of times individuals and families have been faced with in the past, where meeting after meeting, talk about what somebody can't do. Customized employment is looking at what the person can do. What does the person bring to the table? Why would somebody benefit from this job seeker getting a job at their place? That's the process, looking at what someone can do, not what somebody can't do. So that's a basic little overview, and I wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of our people, actually 2 of our first people who went through the customized employment process. You know, part of when we started this, we were really finding difficulty finding employment for people. We had people that, you know, a job developer would go out and find a job, and it wasn't always the job that the person wanted, but it was the one that was available, and somebody would take it. We ended up doing a lot of internships, you know, volunteer work, and filling things in with a lot of community engagement. And obviously what ended up happening is we had a lot of job seekers who were very discouraged, weren't really feeling job satisfaction, or didn't have a job. And our job developers were really frustrated. Through this process of customized employment, we had 2 individuals who started with us seek some real great success. On the left-hand side, I have one individual and his, and what we found is through the discovery process, they ended up coming out with 3 or 4 areas that were really areas of interest, areas of skill, and one of those ended up panning out that he's now employed at an orthopedic center. He has 3 main jobs, and again, they were based upon knowing him through that discovery process. And he does some clerical work. He works in the actual therapy department with the towels. He has a real love of washing and folding. And he also does some jobs that might come up unexpectedly now that he's been employed there, and that he kind of likes to be able to do some different things. He works approximately 10 hours per week. That was by his design. That came out again through that negotiation of he was not looking for full time. He was looking for approximately 3 days a week. And all team members were in agreement with that was a good target for him. He was initially trained by a coworker, which was really an awesome experience. It was somebody who actually had part of the same tasks that he did. They actually still work together. She no longer obviously needs to train him, but they kind of call each other friends, and they're quite close. This individual has worked at this place for approximately 4 years now. I think it's going on a little bit over 4 years, and he just really loves being there. We have the other individual who started working at a manufacturing company. He was there for 2 years. He worked about 12 hours per week. Again, that came back as to what would be closer to his ideal working hours. You know, after 2 years, though, he had made the decision that while he liked the job, he wanted to try something different. And that's the great part about customized employment. It is really based on the individual. And so through the process, we started the process again and found him a new job. And he has worked at that place of employment for probably 3.5 years, and his hours have increased there because he feels such satisfaction and just enjoys going. And he's been working about 15 to 20 hours per week at that site. And then to kind of just sum it up, some of the bigger pieces that we have seen come out is the excitement over the fact that these individuals are a part of this work environment. They're valued. They're making friends and relationships with some of their coworkers. A big piece is, you know, receiving a paycheck. You know, one of the individuals is somebody who loves to give back. So the fact that he earns his own paycheck, he makes his decisions, and sometimes he has donated to various different charities or places that he feels are worthy of him making a donation. But they both really enjoy finally having their own money and not relying upon their families to help pay for everything. And as you can see at the end, they're really proud of themselves and they feel like they do have a career path, that they're building a resume. I don't know at what point they may decide to make a change again, and when they do, we will move with them and make those changes as long as they're with us, and we're associated with them. But it really has such a quality of life outcome for them that has really made a significant difference in their lives. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
I have a question.
Yeah.
As this is Keith Evelett, EDS,
Mhm.
as part of this committee, a lot of questions around if they work part-time, let's say 10 or 12 hours a week, what do they do the rest of the week? Are they in other day programs or other types of programs?
So for the individuals that we have supported through customized employment, they have built other outside interests and also things typically that most people need to do around their home. So there are chores that each of them do at home that take up a considerable amount of time. These are individuals who are, you know, making their meals, except for dinner time. That tends to be more of a family time, but they're doing their laundry, cleaning their room, taking care of an animal that might be at home. They're also doing some things, going out, maybe golfing, fishing. There's one young man who lives down the street from the water, and he'll go fishing. So basically what they'll have done is they've built things around those hours. For some others coming up, that will probably be somewhat challenging, but again, would have to be creative in trying to help support them. And the eventual goal would be for them to maybe extend some hours if that also helped out. It works for these two individuals though.
Okay, thank you. Sue, you have a question?
Yes, this is Sue Bastian. I'm a parent and member of DDS Rec West. My question is, are you also placing individuals who have significant behavioral challenges, such as intermittent explosive disorder and, you know, those types of aggressions towards others? Are you having success placing them?
So we have not had anyone refer to us with explosive behavior. Again, I think if following the customized employment model, that would have to go under what they call conditions for success. And that you would need to really have that discovery team, the job development team, really finding employment that met the person's interests, but also the environment could withstand that type of behavior. I think the more key piece is really the fading out of support, that at some point it's looking to get to more natural supports, if not more minimal support from a job coach. So that tends to be the little bit of the trickier piece. If the person comes with support, because there are some individuals who have that support, then that piece isn't an issue. But we don't have a whole lot of experience right now with individuals with the type of behavior you explained.
Thank you.
Keith Evelett, DDS. Catherine, you have a question?
Yes, hi, this is Catherine Dupree, co-chair. Lisa, can you talk about any difference in the role of the actual, not job coach, but person on the job from the normal way you've done other individual employment placements when you've done customized employment, if there is a difference?
There's definitely a difference. First of all, the level of training and background that the individual gets is much more extensive. It's much more hands-on, and that individual comes with a lot of training beforehand. And then their main role is to really support that individual, to teach that job, to help develop those independent skills for the person to be faded out. So there's no other commitments. There's, you're not doing anything else at that time. That person is devoted to the individual, teaching them. And so I think that makes a big difference, because it's just much more focused, I think. And I think then also the training aspect of it just really elevates that person to a different level.
Keith Haviland, DDS. Anybody else have any other questions? All right. Thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate your
Thank
giving
you.
us this training today.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
Lisa.
night. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda. I believe this is the last time this will be on, and Peter basically broke it out into two sections this time, but discussion from committee members on items identified by families or individuals. And he also has a form that are provider issues, which we haven't really touched on all that much. Does anybody have anything to add to these documents? I think I sent them out last today, Monday, Thursday or Friday, I guess. So if you had a chance to look at them, does anybody have anything to add to these documents? I think this is the last time this will be on. So after this, we'll start working on coming up with solutions to these issues, hopefully. Everybody happy with the way the documents are written and stated? Okay. Well, that's easy enough. All right, the next issue or the next thing is the draft transition plan template for phase 1. Let me bring that up. So this is what Deloitte has put together. I did send this out to everybody also, and it basically is the draft template intended for feedback to provide input on the direction and development of the template. Whoops. My mouse keeps sticking. I apologize for that. Some sections like instructions and review criteria are intentionally incomplete pending feedback and decisions. This document contains all the pieces of the transition plan template. However, the information will be distributed to providers based on their specific needs. For example, a provider may only need Part A, the residential setting transformation, and Part D. To support providers with receiving the correct documents, an online interest survey will be available for guidance. They go through the purpose of the ARPA plan, and they do discuss the 2 phases, with the first phase being voluntary. The second phase will begin in May once DDS and consultation with Deloitte and recommendations on the transformation system change, agree on a transformational plan. Then we'll move into phase 2. It goes through the requirements and reporting, how to get help. It goes through the regional office review guidelines and how the regions will be reviewing these templates once they're received. And then it goes through the residential settings transformation, and then it moves into the day transformation. So if you do just residential, you would be required to do the residential section, and same with the day section. So again, this was sent out earlier. Hopefully people had a chance to look through this. So do we have, Beth, you have a question. Why don't we start with you?
Okay, thank you. I've got a number of comments and questions, I guess, so I just kind of go through them, but no, my intent is not to monopolize the time here. So, you know, when we're talking about the purpose of this plan, you know, I guess I come back to the discussion that we had last time about, you know, why, you know, it's really duplicating the team process. So I'm still having a little bit hard time understanding, you know, the plan and why we really need it. I mean, it also talks in here about the fact that the plan is supposed to be a blueprint for structural changes to an agency. Well, I can't make organizational structural changes with one-time money, with incentives that are going to go away. And, you know, for us, you know, we would make organizational changes in the context of our budget development each year. So in our last budget cycle, for example, we added resources to ISC because forever we've had a goal to move more people from GSE into ISC. But it doesn't mean we're going to need less GSE services, because when you start looking at some of the details for the plan, you know, there's no option to add resources anywhere. It's just options about where you're going to need less resources. So I'm having a little bit of a hard time with understanding all of that. And then talking about meeting quarterly, I mean, I think it's just an undue burden, and I do strongly object to that. We have our quality, continuous quality improvement plans. I think, you know, some of this can get addressed through that. I think that anytime you want to make a slight change, needing to get approval, it's going to further limit flexibility. It may leave teams waiting for somebody to get back to you from resource management. So, you know, I'm not really seeing a lot of the upsides on this. You know, I'm also still not clear after reading through all of this, what is truly the criteria that resource management will be using to approve or not approve these plans. I mean, there's definitely some language here about meeting requirements and aligning to expectations, but, you know, maybe those expectations and outcomes will become clearer as we move forward. But I think that having some set criteria on how plans are going to be evaluated will, one, help anybody reviewing them if we do need to do these plans to be on the same page, but it'll also help providers in submitting something so that we don't keep going back to the drawing board if, you know, somebody has an issue with a piece of our plan. So, you know, that was that piece. I'm looking at my notes here. If you want me to stop for a minute, I can come back.
Yeah, why don't we, because I don't want to not answer anything that I can answer. But with the reason this plan was sent out like it is we're looking for feedback, and Deloitte's looking for feedback on how to improve the plan going forward. So in March or so, when we're going to phase 2, we'll be more prepared to hopefully have all these questions answered that you're asking now and moving forward. The phase 1 is really just for people who are ready, willing, and want to volunteer to move forward in this transformational process. If agencies feel they're not ready, need more information, then certainly we're not pushing you to put these transformation plans forward in a hurried manner that you're not sure what you're receiving. Hopefully, and I think Sean's on the call, he might be able to respond more to the whole rate issue and things of that sort. Are you on, Sean?
Hi, yeah, this is Sean Bannon, Director of Operations at DDS. So yeah, I understand, you know, that you have concerns with, you know, making a long-term change based on one-time funding. Totally understand that. I know that, you know, we're gonna need to have some discussion around that. I don't have like the perfect answer for you right now. I would say, you know, I think in some cases doing some, you know, legwork up front, someone might need some additional supports through a transition. That might be a one-time expense, or you make a structural or infrastructure change. You know, maybe that is a one-time expense that you can then carry on using funding. But I understand that there's, you know, concern around the rates and, you know, annualization of funding.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, a lot of concern. I mean, it's just, how can we restructure if we don't know what the rates are? How can we talk about sustainability of our, transition if we don't know what the rates are? It's really putting the cart before the horse. I think, and maybe our agency is unique, but, we're already doing a lot of this work, and, I'm not going to my staff and saying, oh, stop everything. We're going to have to put a hold on those team meetings till we can figure out how to collect those incentives. So I guess, it brings me back to the basic question of, do we really need such a formal plan?
Keith Lavalette, DDS. We, again, there's the two sides of the residential and day programs. And on the residential side, a lot of agencies may be looking at closing a program. On a DSO program, they may look at closing a DSO and moving individuals into more of an ISE type program. And those are the things we need to look at, understand, and approve before they all happen. Yeah, a lot of times if you have one person in a DSO and they move to a ISE, that happens a lot during the course of a year. And it's hopefully going to continue to happen. Again, we're looking at this as a transformational change. How are agencies going to transform their agencies into the future? And go ahead.
Beth Fisher from CUNY. Admittedly, I don't do residential, so it maybe makes some sense on the residential side, but on the day side, I mean, you're talking about, shutting down programs. I mean, I don't think that as a system we want to reduce capacity. I mean, I've said before, I mean, I have a waiting list for GSE services and for some DSO services. And, some of those are individuals that aren't going to be able to make that step into independent, competitive jobs. So yes, we should be moving as many people as we can, but, I don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater here and then start closing down other programs that have value to a whole group of individuals that are going to continue to need services. I mean, I get literally a referral a day for our GSE program. We just can't serve everybody who needs that level of service. And we do talk with them about other kinds of programs and models, but not everybody is going to be able to move forward.
Catherine?
Sorry, I unmute myself. Catherine Dupree, co-chair. So I think even on the day side, Beth, maybe for providers who do much less employment as you do, that it might make much more sense to have a transformational plan, and they may want to get out of some of the old ways that they're doing business. And I know that we get a number of requests. We can't fill them all, as you can't fill them all, but you have a lot of families who want to move away from settings that aren't very integrated. So I don't know if there won't be providers with different money and sort of different program descriptions and different incentives who won't feel they can't do something that's more integrated. But obviously, when you're mostly an employment provider to begin with, this is the business you're already in, right?
Yes, that's true. Beth Fisher from CUNY. Just the other thing, I alluded to this, but I just want to make sure you understand exactly where I'm talking about. It's on page 8, and it's, what's in the provider plan. And number 3, select the extent of the plan. And there's 3 options, to restructure the whole agency, or structure a designated congregate setting, or redesign to serve people with higher needs. I mean, I would say that there should be another option, which would be to add resources to existing programs like ISE or customized employment that are already kind of meeting that goal. But, I can only serve so many people unless I bring in more staff. So I would suggest that you need to have something there that talks about adding resources to one of those existing programs. And I would also just, again, I really, I just can't see needing to have 4 meetings a year in addition to all the other meetings that providers are required to have. I would like to see some of it rolled into the continuous quality improvement plan meetings.
Keith Lovell at DDS, and those are still being discussed, Beth. And I don't think anybody's looking at these as extensive meetings. They just want to. It's more or less a progress meeting. Are you on schedule and behind schedule? Is there anything else you need? Type deal moving forward.
Beth, this is Catherine Dupree, co-chair. Could you clarify a little bit more your recommendation about adding resources to existing programs that wouldn't come from whether you served more people and then had more money to hire more staff? I'm confused.
Yeah, Beth Fisher from CUNY. So in our last budget cycle here internally, we said, wow, we're really, doing, we're making some progress with getting people out of GSE into ISE. We're getting direct referrals to ISE. But, we have one employment specialist who's also doing customized employment who just can't do it all. We need another staff person. So we built growth into that program, and we built in a way to be able to cover the expense of another employment specialist so we can grow our ISE program. And so when I look at this template, it talks about restructuring or reducing, but it doesn't talk about a way to add resources to those programs that are going to achieve more integrated, competitive, community-based employment for people. So I would just suggest adding something at programs that meet that criterion, ISE, customized employment, et cetera. if there was an option to grow those programs, add resources to those types of programs.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Keith Lavalette, DDS. Does anybody have any other questions regarding this document? Beth, is your hand raised again, or?
It
Go ahead.
is. It is. I'm sorry. Probably
No,
somebody
that's
else would
fine.
jump in,
Fine.
but so I'm looking at this page 16, you know, and it talks about the individuals served, and I'm gotten a little confused as I'm reading through this, because on one hand, it clearly states that your plan shouldn't talk about individuals, but then it also seems to suggest we should be submitting plans for individuals, and I can't really reconcile that in my own mind. And then just talking about the characteristics that make a good candidate. I mean, that's going to come through the team meetings. Everybody's different. Every employment setting is different. So it's, you know, it's not a generalized response. It's really got to be more of a person centered. So could you just maybe talk a little bit more about, you know, do we include specific individuals? I mean, I know there's the whole confidentiality thing, but it's, you know, the plan is per individual in my mind. So maybe I'm missing something.
Keith Lavalette, DDS. When you're filling out the form initially, Deloitte's involved in it, so that there are the confidentiality issues involved. It'll be later on when we're working with the regions that the individuals will be defined more
Thank you, Keith.
during
Fisher,
that process.
yeah.
And
Yeah. Go ahead.
and when I spoke earlier about you know, certain programs closing or something of that sort, every agency that provides programs is different. And, you know, it may be a program closure, it may be a certain group that's moving, it may be an individual that's moving. It's part of the reason we're looking at these transformational plans is to see what the agency is coming up with in their transformational process, and then working from there with the agency to achieve that process.
Okay. Beth Fisher from CUNE. So I could tell you theoretically that maybe we could move X number of people out of group supported employment into independent placements. And if we've got the extra resources to do that, great. But I can't say that then we're going to eliminate a work crew, because we're going to still have those GSE needs. So yeah, you know, maybe it'll become clearer. You know, just that my last comment, you know, is specific to page 21, where it talks about the cost to provide services. I mean, so, you know, I'm reading this like we're being asked to do a cost analysis, because we all know that the rates don't cover the services. So if you're asking for a cost analysis for at least day providers, I mean, to what end at the end of the day? We also don't have rates. So, you know, it's just, it's a very difficult ask when we don't even know what our rates are going to be.
Keith Lavalette, DDS, understood. All right.
Keith, excuse me, this is Catherine, your co-chair. Is there a plan by the department to use that kind of cost analysis, though, to determine if rates need to be recalibrated?
Sean, do you have a better answer than I do?
I may not. You know, I just saw this document the other day, so I wasn't involved in this end of things. I do know that, you know, we're gonna be looking at costs and everything. But specifically how this ties into rates, I'm not sure.
Catherine Dupree, again, co-chair, you might get more participation if that was one of the reasons you were asking for it.
Good feedback.
Keith Level at DDS. Beth, you have another question?
Yeah, Beth Fisher from Keown. I may have gotten this wrong, Sean, but my understanding is that it's actually DSS that's going to be reviewing the rates. So, you know, if that's being handled by a completely different department, again, I'm not sure what the purpose is of asking providers to take on another, you know, pretty time-consuming task of doing a cost analysis.
Yeah, I'm not sure where everything's at. I know that DSS was also going to be looking at rates. I'm not sure, you know, exactly, you know, if there's any intersection or what DDS is going to be doing. So I will take that back.
Keith Level at DDS. And again, following up with Sean, this is a template they're working on right now, and they're requesting the feedback that the advisory has gone through it, the day has gone through it, the regions have gone through it. So they're trying to gather all the feedback now and come up with more of a finalized document going forward. So we will be providing all this information to them too. So just so you know. Okay, I don't see any other questions. So the next thing is discussion on day system outcomes. And everybody could see that?
Yes.
Okay. So at the last residential meeting, Peter had asked about the residential outcomes. What do people looking to see the outcomes for going through this process? They did come up with what they thought some significant residential outcomes would be. And we did put on some day outcomes. But what could we add to this document as outcomes for individuals as they move forward in the transformational plan? Beth?
So I guess just looking at this very first one, a comment is, you know, this is kind of my point earlier. You know, it's saying to identify, you know, individuals that are identified in the plan, and yet we're not supposed to identify people in the plan. So I'm not sure how that would work. But I mean, I think there's all kinds of things that could be measured for outcome success. It just, I think, you know, kind of figuring out what's important to, you know, everybody is the key, but it could be, you know, working increased number of hours. It could be getting a pay raise, you know, or it could be that, and I don't know exactly how you would phrase it, but, you know, somebody who loses a job takes another stab and gets another job. Like, they don't give up. They keep trying to move forward and upward. So.
Keith Level at DDS. That's exactly what we're looking for, Beth. So I appreciate it. So.
Yep.
Oh, let's go with Ally first. I see, did I see Ally's hand raised? I'm sorry.
I don't think I raised my hand, but Ally Smale from NEBA. What I was thinking is that there is a quality work group that has been meeting that is trying to identify metrics that align with quality initiatives in terms of employment. And there might be an opportunity here to do some overlap with that group, directly to what Beth was saying in terms of, you know, increasing pay rates of the individuals who we serve, numbers of hours worked, you know, grit, kind of, you know, sticking with it if one job doesn't work out, to move into that. We might want to look at things like, you know, number of people who meet you know, GSE levels for Ticket to Work, things like that. Might be some areas where we could outline a few specific metrics that we would be interested in tracking that are qualitative.
Keith Lavalette, DDS. Thank you, Ally. And Beth, did you have your hand raised again, or are you done? All set?
I did, but I guess it's just I was looking at the handout that from Trevor's PowerPoint presentation and kind of speaking to Ally's comment. I mean, it does look like some of that work has been done. So I just wondered if, I thought Trevor was on the call. If he was, maybe he had some insight or some thoughts, was what I was going to ask.
Trevor, are you on? I see your name still on there. Are you still here?
I'm here. Sorry.
Oh. You're muted.
Oh, here we go. Sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure that I understood. You were talking about a quality work group. I'm sorry.
Beth Fisher from CUNY. Yeah, I was, and I think these were your PowerPoints, Trevor. They were at the end of our packet that Keith set out
Yeah.
on Friday. And you know, there's a whole section on performance measurement, quality assurance, and program oversight. So just wonder if anything else has come out of those groups that might be relevant to this.
So, and sorry for not doing this before, but Trevor Rogers, Transition Advisor, DDS. So we're still waiting on the official feedback from the commissioner's office, but there were two things that were coming to mind when that was said. And I know that our group has been looking at the specific data that we have access to, the data that DDS collects, but also the data that the Department of Labor collects, because we have an MOU or an MOA with them so that they send over data on the individuals that have relationships with DDS. And so we're looking at how all of that data works together, because not all of it communicates. You know, eCameras doesn't necessarily connect with WebRes Day, doesn't connect with the Department of Labor's data. So we're looking at how we can get all of that to work together, but then also when we see the spectrum of data that we have, where are we missing things and where are those gaps that we're not collecting, but we need to know to be able to have like an informed discussion.
Thank you, Trevor. Catherine.
Yes, Catherine Dupree, co-chair. So this may go along with one of the recommendations I think Beth and Ally made about pay raises. I think it would also be great if we saw a decrease in the number of people making sub-minimum wage. And also we are an employment first state, which really talks about the fact that everybody over time should be able to be employed. And maybe we want to see a decrease in the number of people in non-integrated day settings.
Okay. Just Beth, I'll get to you in 1 second. I just wanted, Ally, You had mentioned a committee was established. Are you talking about the Selm Commission that Trevor's part of, or is this a different committee that you're part of?
So, and I apologize because I think I will get the, I'm sorry, Ally Smale from NEBA. I will probably get the acronym wrong, but it's the EPMQAP group. So it's quality and I don't know that it's necessarily aligned with Selm, but I do believe that all of those groups are working in tandem, kind of collaboratively. Trevor
And-
will probably be able to lend
Yeah.
more insight.
Trevor Rogers, DDS Transition Advisor. Sorry to interrupt. So the um, the employment performance measurement, quality assurance, and program oversight. It's a mouthful. That's one of the subcommittees of the Selm group that I presented on. And the reason I wasn't giving too much of an in-depth background on it is because that's one of the few subcommittees I'm not regularly in. And I think that both of you might be. So you have more up-to-date information on what that exact subcommittee is doing. But yes, that is part of the Selm group.
Keith Lovelett, DDS, thank you. Beth, go ahead.
Beth Fisher, Kuhn Employment. So, Catherine, just in terms of your suggestion about tracking the number of, people who are leaving sub-minimum wage jobs. I mean, I think on the surface that sounds like a good idea, but I do worry that it would erode the GSC model. So I think unless you want to get rid of GSC altogether, I would strongly suggest that we not do that. I know it's a very controversial topic, but again, we continue to use the sub-minimum wage certificate. Without it, we would not be able to operate our GSC program. We just would not be competitive with employers and be able to provide group supported. So I would really be concerned that that would erode GSC across the state.
So this is Catherine Dupree, co-chair. While I might say it would be great if it totally went away, I didn't propose that. I think if anything, there should be a decrease in the number of people who don't get paid what they should get paid. And I know that there are groups, including my own, who have people in GSC where people won't make minimum wage. So this doesn't do away with it. If there are agencies such as yours who still use that model, this isn't, the state's not saying that that model should go away. You're muted. Beth, you're muted.
Sorry, Beth Fisher from Kuhn. I mean, we've done a cost analysis and we could not operate GSC if we had to compete with, I mean, and frankly, it's my sense is that group supported employment programs that are paying minimum wage or better are taking the most productive individuals and not the people who could work with a lot of extra support. And, we've just taken a position that we're not going to, what I call cream the crop. We are going to serve anybody who wants to try to work, but to be competitive, we can't pay minimum wages. We've looked at that a number of times. So ours would completely go away.
Keith Lovelett, DDS. Robin.
Yes, I have a couple questions. Number one, is group supported employment where someone's getting paid sub minimum wage considered to be a competitive job?
Beth Fisher from Kuhn, if I could respond. It's not a competitive job, but it is a community integrated job.
Okay, so that second bullet, increase in the number of individuals with a competitive job, would not include people who are in group supported employment making sub minimum wage?
My understanding, again, Beth Fisher from Kuhn, is that would not include anybody in GSC, regardless if they were making minimum wage or not.
Okay,
Keith
so,
Lovelett.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to add to Beth, the way the ARPA plan was written, it considered the DSO programs and the GSA programs congregate settings, and it was moving individuals out of those settings into independent employment situations. And they were considering, I'm sorry, they are considering a movement from a DSO to a GSC as part of the transformation.
So where is that reflected here then? I guess I'm not seeing that then. That's why I asked that question. Was that reflected in number 2? And the answer is no. So then where is that reflected as a potential outcome?
So Robin, this is Catherine Dupree, co-chair. I thought it might be reflected in the 3rd one. Increase the number of individuals who receive vocational support in the community. Because the department has talked about within the incentive examples, people moving, as Keith said, from DSOs to GSEs.
Okay.
And this is Keith Lavalette, DDS, and this is just the beginning. Peter was looking for additions to the day outcomes. So if you feel you have something that is better said, I guess, certainly let us know and we'll add it. Keith Lavalette, DDS, Sue?
Sue Bastian, parent. The last one, to increase opportunities for individuals with significant medical and behavioral support needs. I thought that in the beginning, this committee had said that at this time we weren't addressing that, which I wish we would, because that's where my kids fall. But I thought the committee had said that initially the transformation would be for people with low lawn scores, not people who have a 6, 7, 8. And so I was surprised to see that in there.
Keith Lavalette, DDS. No, we're looking to transform the system for everyone. If an individual isn't able to work but does not have, say, a DSO program, it's looking to, if we can move individuals out of a DSO program into, say, an ISE program, then backfill into the DSO program with a more medically involved or a behaviorally involved individual. That's what part of the transformation is about.
This is Sue again. So we're trying to transform all parts of day services. If so, then I would like to see added to increase the quality of programs for people who are in day service programs, which for people with severe needs, which, to be blunt, parents refer to that as a babysitting service because mostly they sit around doing nothing.
Okay, thank you. I lost track on who's next, so Catherine, do you have a? You're muted, Catherine.
Thank you. This is Catherine Dupree, your co-chair. So if the last outcome is to, and I have wording in front of it, but to address the needs of people with significant medical and behavioral support needs in the least restrictive setting, they're already participating in these DSOs. And as Sue says, there are concerns about the quality that some of them are in. So I'm not sure that a transformational initiative is to keep them in segregated DSOs and think that's the least restrictive setting they can be in.
Keith Lavalette, DDS. No, that's not what I meant at all. It's the least restrictive environment for those individuals.
Including GSE?
if that's the least restrictive program for the individual.
Thank you.
Robin.
Yeah, thank you. Robin Hescock, parent. So it seems to me this is a continuum, starting with no employment at all, just in a day program, all the way up to being in a competitive job where you don't need any support. And it seems to me the goal is just to try to move people to the next level based on their ability and as far and what they're actually capable of doing. So maybe somebody can move up one level, maybe somebody can move up 2 levels, maybe somebody can't move at all, and therefore you would need to work in their current setting and try to make it less restrictive. But it just seems to me we're just trying to move people up a level with the ultimate goal, which obviously not everybody is going to be able to do, of working independently with no support at all, making tons of money and buying a house and living independently. So this seems overly complicated to me. I guess I would like to see a flow diagram of like starting with just day program with no employment all the way up to working independently, and then just the goal is to try to move people along that continuum as if they can, but not everybody can, and there should be supports at each step. And the support should be the same regardless of whether you're moving from group supported to, I mean, from day program to group supported or from group supported to individual. There should be support to help to do that. I mean, that's just my opinion. I'm getting confused with all this wording because it just seems quite simple what the goal is.
Thank you, Robin. That was well said. Beth, you have a question?
Beth Fisher from King. Totally agree, Robin, that was well said. That's exactly what we're trying to do. Just, going back to the idea of an outcome related to quality of programs. I mean, that, I think, you've got to really quantify what that means. And there are things you could look at. I'm not sure it belongs in this transformation plan so much as perhaps in an individual agency's continuous quality improvement plan, but, measuring things like, how much, community engagement is there even in a DSO program. So I understand that it is an issue some places. I've heard some of those same comments, but I'm not sure that this is the place for it. But I do think that there are places where there are some safeguards around it, would just be my comment.
Keith Lavalette, DDS. Thank you, Beth. Robin, your hand's raised. Do you have another question?
Oh, no, sorry. I will take it down.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you. Okay, does anybody have anything else? Our next meeting is 11/21 at 4 p.m. And could I get a motion to adjourn? Catherine? Second, Varian, thank you so much.